Agree with you, man. I agree with you.
Shit, if you agree with me, man, I'm looking for disagreement. But I'll let you say something like in 20
Well, I do
seconds.
disagree to some points you made.
Okay, then hit me with a disagreement then.
Okay, you claim white man slavery, white man slavery, white man slavery. You do realize the white man didn't create slavery, right?
I was talking about slavery in the context of African Americans and Africans. So there's a unique history associated with that specific slavery, which is a turning point in the degradation of our civilization as we've known it, and the reindoctrination of our people and the redefinition of our people, which has led to an obvious identity crisis among our people today. That's the context in which I say slavery. But slavery as a whole obviously stretches across human history. But not every slavery took the same shape and form.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. Well, I mean, if we agree on all these aspects, man, I guess put someone else on, man.
Well, shit. Yeah. And when I say white man, sometimes I do say it sounds general, but everybody know that we ain't talking about the average white person. We talking about them rich white folk.
Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately, in that system, there were many white folks that contributed to the enslavement of black people, as much as there was white people that contributed to the freedom of black people. And that's something we don't often talk about. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to at least put that out there, because some people might be feeling some kind of way, but the reality is true. It's kind of like when you see that Israel is doing shit to the Palestinians. It's not every Israelite. It's the fucking government. 4 hours and 36 minutes. What's up, Gladys? Hello? All right. Next individual. Reading the Quran ain't gonna do shit. What's up, Venus? I saw you earlier. You said you wanted to come up. Sorry, Venus. I didn't even get to it. I got caught up in that conversation. What's up, bro?
Hello, brother. Good morning. I'm speaking from the UK.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I've been listening to you for a long time. This is 5 in the morning, and I don't even know. You said so many things that honestly I agree with. However, in terms of the existence of God, I don't know why you still don't believe in God. I don't think you believing all these things you believe have to eradicate the existence of God. So
Do you see this hat right here?
Yeah, I do.
What do you believe this is?
I believe it's a red hat.
How about this one?
That's black.
No, are you sure? This is blue. I believe that this is a blue hat.
Okay. That's where
Who's right?
subjectivism comes in.
Okay, you believe, I believe. Who's right?
That's where subjectivism comes in. You have to prove
No.
You have to prove your point versus me.
Yes, but my question right now about this hat, who's right?
That's what I'm saying. I can't say you are wrong. You have
I see Cheta. You said it's a black hat. I said it's a blue hat. Upon observation, who's right?
Objectively, I can't say I'm right.
Who is right based on the data? When we observe, when we check this hat, what color is it right now?
Black.
Okay, so my belief, no matter how much I was sure it was blue, I'm wrong. You understand?
Yes.
So whatever you say you believe has to be consistent with observable reality, and your gods are not. The only thing we observe about gods is that human beings invent them, and there are many of them in this world. And most of those gods, we've already relegated them as mythological characters. The God of the Greeks, the God of the Romans, the God of the Egyptians, we've already classified them as myths. It's just a bunch of Abrahamic people over here pretending like the Jews are the only ones that we have to pretend like their idea of God is real. God does not exist. Whatever explanation there is for this world that we live in, it has nothing to do with a God. And science has proven us. And until we wake up to that reality, we will not invest our energy to investigate the reality of it. That's why you notice that in places where people are excessively religious, the knowledge of science is bankrupt. And you can see their standard of living. You can tell that they're not making any real progress in the world. If there is whatever is responsible for this world, if we are to find it, we will find it through science. Because science is a method that works far more efficiently than anything humanity has ever come up with that we know of. The stories of God confuse us and appeal to our emotions. That's it. When the world was ruled by religion, human beings were riding horses for 5,000 years. When human beings started thinking and started violating all the things that they were told or only God can do, we started wondering, well, what is lightning? Can we generate lightning ourselves? Can we compact it and use it to power different things? Why do we have to keep riding horses? We started questioning God. Why do we have to use boats?
But
Look
the
at
thing
the
is,
progress we made.
but the thing is, I don't think human development or technological development somehow like is supposed to be on a different, supposed to be an opposition to the essence of God. That's my point. I don't see God as a competitor with the need for scientific development. Okay, so I see God as our direction, one that gives us an objective way of living, of
But we
defining,
do not
like
have an
giving the
objective way of
explanation.
living. But we do not have an objective way of living. At the
We do
very
not.
best, we can only have a common way of living at the very best. But fundamentally, our ways of living are all subjective to where we are, who's around us, and what's going on around us.
Yeah, that is true on a cultural level. What I'm talking
No,
about,
on
I'm
a
talking about
very
in terms of
practical level.
morality. In terms of morality now.
Yes, even in terms of morality, there is no objective morality. There's only common moralities. And those common moralities is born out of our common experiences. For example, how we should treat children. Because we all have children in this world, we've all experienced very similar ways of not treating children in terms of watching some people treat children in a bad way. So if you go to China, they will tell you, oh, treat children this way. And you can go to Africa and get the same morality because Africans also have children. You see the way a monkey keeps its children is based on its experience in the same way that a lion can keep its children. Now, there are some things that are unique, and then we develop different morality, like how women should dress, the place of a woman in society, the sex, a lot of those things. There are some tribes in Africa, it's not a shame for women to walk around with their breasts outside. And in those tribes, you notice that those men don't objectify those women based on their breast. In the Western world, it is a shame for a woman to walk around with her breast outside. So the breast of a woman has become sexualized, when in fact, a man can walk outside with his breast and nobody is sexualizing him. But if a woman does, she gets sexualized. That is due to their unique experience. Meanwhile, in those tribes in Africa, like the Pygmies, half the time they don't wear clothes, they just cover their private parts. No sexualization whatsoever. That's how morality is formed. So ultimately, morality is not objective. It is subjective, and then we come together and unite our subjective moralities to form a common morality. That's how countries are formed, that's how states are formed, that's how empires are formed, and that's how one day we might have a global morality.
I have to definitely give that to you, especially the point you raised about objectifying women, in different cultures and all of that. That's facts. Okay, so then how do you explain existence? How do you explain your origin of human existence?
Thank you. The most important thing about our existence is not the origins of it. The most important thing about our existence is that we know in fact that we do exist. And what do we do now that we exist? We found it very difficult to trace specific origins. We found it very difficult to trace origins with ease. So we've realized that it takes a lot of meticulous study and investigation that we don't all have time to invest in in order to even get clues about our origins. But what's most important that we must focus on is, now that we are here, what do we do? In terms of our existence, those who believe that somebody put human beings here, naturally, even if we were all to believe that someone put us here, there's no guarantee that they put us here for a good reason. We can already see the world around us, and we see that there's some sort of unspoken hierarchy among living creatures. We see that human beings possess a level of intelligence that allows them to dominate the animal kingdom because we work good together, better than them. And because of that, we're very negligent to their value of life. We eat them, we cook them, we use them for our labor, we use them as slaves because they don't have our level of intellect. Now, why should we assume that if there is a group of beings whose intellect is higher than ours, they will not treat us in the same way? So naturally, even if somebody put us here, we have to make sure that they didn't put us here in the same way that we put animals on the farm. Because if they did, our natural instinct should be to defend ourselves. So we must continue studying the world and developing different weapons of defense. So that if we were ever to encounter whoever put us here, if at all somebody put us here, we can defend ourselves. Now, if no one put us here and we evolve naturally like science says, then we have nothing to worry about but ourselves. So ultimately, at the end of the day, regardless of what question you ask or how you ask it, we have to keep studying science and understanding.
So
the world.
you are more at an agnostic level of phase rather than an atheistic one.
No, I'm not agnostic. I'm very atheistic. I don't think that anyone put us here. I don't think God put us here. And I think that even if human beings were put here, it is highly likely and highly possible that we were put by a different civilization of beings who are not necessarily gods.
So the idea is that the idea of God or the concept of God is that we originated from something. Doesn't matter whether you think it's a singular being or whatever it is.
No, it must be a singular being because God is a singular word. So you should say gods, plural.
No. We're not talking about monotheistic God because there are people that believe in more than one God. Okay, so we are at the level where we are arguing the existence of God or a God or something like that. But I'm arguing from the point of
the word
the
God
concept
fundamentally
itself.
Listen.
Being,
the concept itself. Listen
of
carefully,
just
bro.
originating from somewhere. I want to know how you explain that.
Let me teach you something. The concept of God is actually first and foremostly more related to the concept of king, ruler, more than the concept of creator. Okay.
I'm talking of creator.
If you're talking of creator, then we cannot assume that human beings would have been created in any way that is different from how we create things. Nothing in this world that human beings create is the job of a singular human being. We work in teams and we create out of raw material for our own uses. So like I said to you, if somebody designed human beings and they wanted to keep human beings in check, presenting themselves as an almighty, supreme, unquestionable power is a very good psychological tool to keep them in check. If you could just convince all the animals on your farm that you are an almighty, supreme being and they could understand you actually, then you don't even need to put a fence. So I'm saying to you that no matter how you conceptualize the concept of God, they don't exist. Any being that shows up and say they're God is not a God. At least not with absolute power, not with absolute power, omnipresence, and omnipotence.
Yeah, but you just said you believe that there's some high level of beings that put us here for whatever reason. So I'm saying that concept itself is the argument of the existence of God. That's the point. We can't. I'm sorry, brother. That's
not true.
Let me articulate my thoughts to you. I do not think that my highest level of brain, excuse me, I do not think that the highest level of my indulgence in that's my cerebral indulgence now would ever lead me to a sufficient point of defining nature and defining why things are the way they are. Okay, so that means that I'm not smart enough to be able to define something as important and critical as where I'm coming from. Meaning that
hold up. No, pause there.
Meaning that
pause there.
Okay,
pause there.
Go on.
That means that you have brain damage.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the sarcasm or insult.
No. I'm not being
Okay.
sarcastic.
Yeah,
Do you know why I say that?
You are
Because-
thinking. I know what you're
no, no,
thinking.
no, no.
I know what you're thinking. I know what you're
Your
thinking.
origin and the origin of humanity is two different things. Your origin is perfectly defined within your understanding of your
Of
father
course,
and
you
your
know
mother.
I'm not talking about my origin. I'm just
Okay, good. If you are not talking about your origin, you are giving too much place for that thought in your brain because it is unnecessary knowledge anyways.
I'm giving
That
too much
knowledge,
thought.
that knowledge doesn't add substance to your being whatsoever. The knowledge of where humanity originates from cannot add substance to your being. The only thing it will change is that it's going to tell you that you have to keep doing what you're already doing anyways.
No. You don't get my point. It doesn't have to do anything with me. It doesn't have to have anything to the point. The point I'm making is that you guys who claim that there is no God, I'm saying that you already in science, on a scientific level, you have not even used up to 50% of your brain. And then you claim that you know so much to say of a certainty that there is no God. That's
Of course.
That's
Of course, because what I don't know doesn't take away from what I know for sure.
No, but you don't know enough to say that there's no God. That's my point.
Yes, I know enough to say that there's no God. I know more than enough. I know that human
and
beings
you can't
invented...
explain where you came from.
Because where I came from doesn't have anything to do with why human beings invented the idea of God. Where we came from is not related to God at all. It's a claim that uneducated human beings, when they knew less than us and they had less science than us and they didn't have time to understand the world, they made up that idea. It was invented fictitiously. I told you, we've already relegated 90% of gods to be myths. Okay? We've dismissed them. We've already dismissed the God of the Babylonians, the God of the Sumerians, the God of the Egyptians, the God of the Greeks. We've already dismissed those ideas as myths. The only reason why the idea of God remains relevant today is because Western governments used that idea in the initial form of their governmentations, but they eventually transitioned from it as well. But the only problem too, another problem is that religion, which is the number one perpetrator of the idea of God, when they lost political power, they still had moral power. So what we are observing in today's generation is that religion is losing the power to govern morality. Because human beings are finding different sources of morality. Once religion completely loses that power, the idea of God would be 100% understood as fictitious. And then the actual reality of our world will be the knowledge we gain through science. And the knowledge we gain through science has never pointed us in the direction of any God as described or conceptualized anywhere in human history.
For you to believe that this world is completely materialistic, right? And you believe that everything you do is from your efforts that you put out to give you physical results, and yet by the same logic, choose to disagree that you yourself have originated from another person's actions. I'm talking about humanity, not just you. You are walking in self-denial. You're making a huge error.
Let me ask you a question.
I don't know if you understand what I just said.
Hold up.
I don't know if you understand what I said.
Listen, for every action, there's an equal and opposite
There's
reaction.
an equal and opposite reaction, yes.
Okay.
So why don't you believe? Go on.
I bet you. Calm down. Actions are not just generated by somebody. It's also by something. We already know that what initiates, we call it nature. It's not a someone, it's a something. That's why it has nothing to do with gods. Even at the most fundamental level of the human genome, which is sperm and egg. So however the first human being would have existed, it had to be a cell.
So you're living in a had to be kind of psychology. Come on.
Say that again?
You're saying had to be. You don't have the answer. So you're an agnostic. You don't know.
When I say it had to be, I'm telling you that it is not God. It is nature.
It's nature. Nature how? How did you know that?
Through experimentation and testing and science and biology and all the progress we've made. Listen,
every experiment tells you that there's an equal and opposite reaction. Every experiment tells you that.
Let me explain to you. Nature is a concept that describes how things act, how things behave, in the absence of an intention or somebody. Okay? The problem is that the idea of God has literally fucked your intelligences, people who believe in God, because you don't realize that the idea of God is personification. Human beings took human characteristics and human behavior and imposed it on the ideas that they are looking for, as if human beings are the only life form. Human beings, who is to say that human beings are the defining life form by which if there's a supreme being, it must mirror humans? The supreme being can literally mirror the life form that we know as plants. The supreme being can also mirror the life form we know as viruses and bacteria. It doesn't necessarily have to take the human form or human characteristics of behavior. We see that even bacteria and viruses can multiply, but they don't necessarily multiply following the same logic as human beings. We see that plants can still multiply and bring things into existence, but they don't necessarily follow the human concept. But we know that we invented God because we took our behavior and we imposed it upon that idea.
But you said you read the Bible. You read the Bible through. I was listening to you. You've read the Bible through. And if you've read the Bible through, you should have known that although the Bible definitely uses humanistic or personification, it clearly says God is not a man. Jesus said God is spirit. He said God is not a man. So you shouldn't expect, okay? Now, if the thing about what I'm saying, it might sound ridiculous.
No, I
but
bet
please
you.
let me land. Can you let me land?
No.
I don't like this. I don't like this.
I don't want you to land. Stay in the air. Stay in the air. Stay in the air. Don't land yet.
Go on. Say what you want to say. Say what you want to say. Go on.
What is a spirit?
What is a spirit?
Give me the definition of the word spirit in the English language.
Okay, we are shifting the focus now.
I'm not shifting the focus. If you know how to read, you know that the Bible is not a dictionary. It's written in English, so you must not have to speak English and understand English words before you read it. And you don't read the book and then impose your meaning on it. So my question for you is, you said to me that if I read the Bible, I would know that the Bible says God is not a man, God is a spirit. So if you knew what a spirit is, you realize that what I'm saying to you is true. That because God is a spirit, that's why God doesn't exist, because spirits are just ideas.
Okay, cool. You will say it's an idea. I don't think spirit's an idea. I think spirit.
What is a spirit?
I think the spirit of God or God Himself is a being that is non-physical.
What do you mean by non-physical?
Means you cannot see them with your physical eyes. You can't.
Something can be physical and still invisible. Something can be invisible and physical. So
something
invisibility doesn't mean non-physicality.
I don't know where you're going with that, but I'm just saying that spirit.
What is a spirit? What do you mean by non-physical? That's what I asked you. What do you mean by non-physical?
Is a being that is not physical in the sense you cannot touch it. You cannot, you can't interact with it with your mere 5 sense organs. Okay,
then how do you know that it's there?
Okay, good. It's the same way you know that other concepts which are not physical exist, like logic, like emotion, like rationality,
logic doesn't
like morality.
Exist. Logic is just a concept.
You know there's consciousness, right?
Consciousness doesn't exist either. Those are just concepts.
That's what I'm saying, but you know consciousness is a concept.
It's a concept that
and
describes...
You agree that consciousness influences how you live.
I betcha. If you keep quiet, you will learn. Concepts are supposed to describe physical reality. That's the only way a concept is useful. So consciousness is a concept which describes...
Say what you said again. I missed it. Consciousness does what?
Concepts are ideas that we formulate to describe physical reality. So at the end of the day, a concept has no reality if it's not describing something physical.
And do you think that the spirit doesn't have any physical effects?
Bro, are you stupid?
No, I should be asking you that because you're actually saying some things
Listen again. Listen again.
A
concept is an idea that describes the behavior of physical things. Do you understand that? For example, let me use myself. I am my physical body. My spirit is a concept which describes how my physical body behaves. So if you remove my physical body, there is no spirit there for you to describe. And if you're describing my physical body which doesn't exist, then you're describing something which doesn't exist. So in order for you to make a concept to describe something and that thing be real, we have to be able to observe that thing to be consistent with the concept that is being described as.
And that's
When
why I asked you a question. Do you think that the spirit also does not have observable things? Do you think?
yes, it
That's what I
doesn't.
asked you. Ask me if I'm dumb.
It doesn't because it doesn't. Do you know
How
what
do you mean
spirit
it
is?
doesn't? What the hell do you mean it doesn't? So you think
Okay,
that all the
hold up.
thousands of billions of Christians who follow Jesus Christ don't have any effects in their lives?
They have no effects in their life beyond the same effect that Santa Claus has on the mind of a child.
Okay,
Use
okay.
your
If
brain.
Santa Claus, okay, if you're equating Santa Claus to the effects of Christianity, then that's wrong because in the level of how do I articulate this? Please excuse me. I might not be able to articulate it in the detail, but what I know is that in the effects of Christianity in the world, things like education, women's rights to vote, and so many other things, Christianity has largely affected the world positively. It has united many nations.
Abecheta. Because of
As a
Christianity,
Becheta.
your people were enslaved. Because of Christianity, you right now, you are speaking English and not your native tongue. Because of Christianity, your nation is underdeveloped and your people are facing an existential crisis. Because of Christianity, there is poverty in your country, Nigeria, and those Nigerians, though they are smart naturally, they're not able to make use of all the resources they have. That's also the product of Christianity, which is the same as
That's
any
not true,
other
bro.
man-made.
But
Hold up.
I get the part
Hold
you're
up.
talking about
Hold up.
colonialism.
That is consistent with all man-made ideas because Islam does the same thing, Hinduism does the same thing, atheism does the same thing. Because of atheism, in 30 years, China was able to go from a third world country to competing with the United States right now.
Okay, hold on. I'm definitely going to respond to you. I admit that Christianity has been used for colonialism, right? 100%. But I'm saying originally there was Christianity even before the Europeans got to, got the religion. If I should use it that way, in fact, Christianity was already in Africa. You've heard of Simon of Cyrene. You've heard of the Ethiopian eunuch. You've heard of the early church fathers who were African. Hold on, brother. Can you listen to me, please? Can I just say what?
No, sir.
No.
Tell me one book in the
misrepresenting.
Bible. Tell me one book in the Bible that was written to a church in Africa.
Sorry, what do you say?
Tell me one book in the Bible that was written to a church in Africa. We have the book of Romans, that's in Europe. Corinthians, that's in Europe. Philippians, that's in Europe. Galatians, that's in Europe. Tell me one that was in Africa. And unless you're telling me,
We don't have just because there was a streamlined focus. We don't have the books of every single person in the Bible. We don't have it. We don't have that. We don't have any writings of Barnabas in the Bible, of James. Okay, we do have of James. We don't have the books written to every nation. But we know for a fact that we have African Christians in the Bible.
If you should listen to me like a good student, I will teach you, okay?
No. I'm responding to you.
Cheta, listen carefully. In the days of Jesus, who was ruling over Jerusalem?
In days of Jesus, who was ruling over Jerusalem?
Who was ruling Israel?
I know it's the Roman Empire, anyways.
Okay, that's Rome. Rome.
I don't know the specific person. I'm not sure.
I'm asking you what nation. It was Rome.
Okay, go on. Yes,
Christianity was already in Rome before Jesus even died. Because you want to know what? The Romans were the ones that governed the entire region at that time. It was their empire. Ultimately, who brought the downfall of Israel in 70 AD?
That's still Rome.
Still Rome.
Yes.
Who is the number one perpetrator of Christianity after that? Who sat down to decide? Who sat down to decide? Who sat down to decide that there will be 66 books in the canon? Who added chapters and verses into the Bible?
The Council of Nicaea.
Who added chapters and verses into the Bible?
I don't know who added chapters and verses in the Bible.
It is still the Roman.
I still don't know about that one.
It's still them. Christianity is a Roman religion.
Oh, this is what you're heading to. I see.
Cheta.
Go on.
Plagiarizing a culture and multiple cultures that predated them. Before Jesus ever existed, there was already the tale of the virgin birth. Isis. Egypt was a far bigger civilization than Israel. It's just because it's so far back that most people don't look at it, and because it wasn't translated directly. But if you look at Isis, and you look at Ra, who was the sun god, and you look at El, which is another name for Horus, you get Israel.
I know. I know this one. I know this one you're talking about.
The Egyptians were in captivity in Egypt for how many years?
I don't know I don't know that.
400 years. Do you know what 400 years is? The Egyptians were in captivity in Egypt for 400 years. Moses lived in the temple, not in the temple, in the palace of Pharaoh, and he was even a candidate to become Pharaoh, and he got all the education of someone who could become a Pharaoh, including the religion, the philosophies of the Egyptians for 40 years before he went
Okay,
to
you
the
mean
desert.
the Israelites were in bondage? That's what you meant, not the Egyptians.
The Israelites were in bondage in Egypt for 400 years.
That's what I said. I don't know. So
Moses spent 40 years in the palace of Pharaoh learning all that information.
Yes.
Eventually, he was not able to become Pharaoh. But he goes and creates his own nation. And he creates 10 commandments, which are only 10 when the Egyptians already had 42 affirmations of Mahat. And there is none of those 10 commandments that you cannot find in the 42 affirmations of Mahat from Egypt. You can definitely tell that the religion, the doctrine, the beliefs of the Jews, they plagiarized it and they borrowed it from those nations that surrounded them and the civilizations that came before them. And you can see how it even changed throughout time when they went into the Babylonian captivity. That is when they wrote the 5 books of Moses. Moses did not write the 5 books of Moses.
I'm aware. It's traditionally attributed to him. Yes.
Good. So what you are looking here is a tradition which is not so different from that of the Egyptians, from that of the Greeks, from that of the Babylonians. That's what I was telling you. The problem is that when the Romans adopted the religion of the Jews, they changed the name of the characters because Jesus is not even a Jewish name. The Jewish equivalent for Jesus is Yeshua. If you translate it to English, you should get Joshua.
Okay. Let me ask you this question.
So you are talking about a religion that we know for a fact was invented.
No, it's not invented. I'm going to do my own study because obviously I do read, here and there. By the grace of God, I don't just move things by emotions. I don't believe things by emotion.
Whether you have the grace of God or you don't have the grace of God, if you're just honest to yourself, you can read and understand.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. Okay, I'm using my vocabulary intentionally. Okay. So now, I was going to ask you something. Do you believe that Jesus Christ existed?
No.
So you believe that all the historical extra biblical writings about him were forged as well? Then?
I think that the entity that we call Jesus Christ is historical fiction, and that character was inspired by multiple real life people, most of which are anonymous, and that none of the story occurred as we are being told.
Flavius Josephus.
Listen. Let me tell you something. Do you know what the problem of most Christians are? You guys don't even know the real history of the world. Okay, let me put the hidden history of the world. Do you know that there was a civilization that was greater than the Roman Empire in the days of the Roman Empire on this earth? Do you know that?
Man, I don't know.
It is the civilization that built the Great Walls of China, what we call the Great Walls of China. It's called Titaria. That civilization was completely wiped out of the books. Means that the authorities that governed the world in those days, the Romans, because the narratives that came from that civilization contradicted everything we've been given, they deleted it, and there's nothing but remnants. When you go to India, you see those temples. That's Titarian architecture. The Titarians were in par with the ancient Egyptians, and you will not even be surprised if they're the ones who inspired the pyramids. We see pyramids all across the world. And within the pyramids, we see certain hints to certain sciences, like the flower of life and certain mathematical principles. Do you know where the Greeks went to go and learn their mathematics and their philosophies? They went down to Egypt. All right? There is a history in this world, and the truth about this world is not rooted in the Abrahamic religions. The Abrahamic religions is the most diluted form of anything that is remotely close to what actually happened in the past. Even in our own African tradition, most of our African languages are not even written.